It is my friend Matt Moskowitz. I'm Beth Berry. I'm Vice President of Business Development for Real Green. My favorite person in the world is joining us, Matt Moskowitz from American Profit Recovery. Matt, the theme this week is ensuring that you have everything planned for accounts receivable in 2021. All the tools. Are you going to change your statement messaging? Just everything that you can think of to maximize cash flow, encourage retention. You want to be able to service those customers when it's time to service them. We don't want them on financial hold. And you can't have a conversation or a theme like that without including you and American Profit Recovery. So welcome today from the sunny beach. If there might be some Real Green customers who don't know who you are, so introduce yourself.
Well, glad to join you in Fort Lauderdale this morning, virtually for me, real for you. But my name is Matt Moskowitz. I am one of the partners at American Profit Recovery. We have been working with since the beginning. Started this company in 2004, and I've been working with lawn care companies even prior to that at another life. And we have probably close to 1,100 lawn care clients now. Out of about
king. You are the king of green industry collections, Matt. The king.
I'll take that. I would argue Prince, but king. I'll take that.
Yeah, I like to be called princess, so I get that. How have you been in Michigan? What have you been up to?
9 inches of snow the other day. So hunkered down. You know, we've got obviously still COVID protocols in place at the office. So many of us are working remotely at home. So I had to kick my wife out of the home office and set her up with a little desk somewhere else.
That's funny. I just heard a realtor this week say he was talking about home improvements. Do you do the kitchen? Do you do the bathtub? And he said the new trend is the second home office.
Yeah, I can totally imagine that.
Either for kids who are e-learning, which will probably go on to some degree, and for those of us who work from home.
Yeah. So I'll share with you a couple learnings we've had over the last 12 months with the pandemic. Is number one, there's a lot of people at home right now. It's a lot easier to get a hold of people.
Ooh, I like that. I hadn't thought about it.
So where phone calls used to be more difficult to actually get someone on the phone, especially if you're calling between 8 and 5, you know, a lot of other people are at their work. So you're leaving a bunch of messages. So one of the things in doing collections is we really stress some of the evening calls to get a hold of people more frequently. But in today's world, a lot of people working from home and are answering the phone. So for those that aren't making phone calls, you know, again, that's a personal preference, but now is a good time to get a hold of people. Secondly, what we found is that, and I'll back up for a second, but we work with a lot of financial institutions, and they've seen an increase in savings and money in checking accounts and a decrease in people overdrawing their accounts. And it's because people aren't out and about and spending their money shopping and out to eat and et cetera, et cetera. So the ability to pay has been better. And then throw on top of that some stimulus checks, and few months before that is an extra $600 a week in unemployment, and people were paying their bills better in the last 12 months. So
that is fascinating. So it's easier to get a hold of people. They're answering the phone and they're being more mindful with their money. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what you're hearing.
That I had not heard this before. Maybe you should get on a national television show and share this with the country, because I think this is good news.
I should come to everyone live from Florida.
You should. You actually should.
Um,
So that is, and I would assume the same might work for sales telemarketing.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting our recovery rates were the highest in company history this last year, and we attribute obviously a good chunk of that to those things I just mentioned. Even though our place, so not as many people were being sent, our recovery rates were really high this last year. So I would assume that any type of telephone, being able to get a hold of people, telemarketing, would have more success at this point.
Number one collection question I've received in the last 90 days. Can I text my customers that they have a past due balance if they have opted in for my company to text them?
Yes.
So I can say, hey, Matt, you owe us money. It's ABC Lawn Care and you owe me money.
Yeah, there's so don't ask me for the legislative so and so versus so and so or this and that, but the legislation has now really taken a good hold of today's form of communication. So emailing, which was taboo in the past, if you're emailing personal and confidential, non-public information, because email was not considered a secure form. Texting, calling cell phones, auto dialing cell phones. There was certain laws and regulations that now government is taking a good hard look at, how many people actually have a home phone. Most people's home phone now, or at least a good chunk of people, have is no home phone.
Yeah.
So, how do we not call a cell phone when that's the only way to get a hold of people? And in more recent legislation is the texting. So, especially if they opt in to texting, you're solid.
Excellent. Well, we are partnering with our integrated text partner, Captivated, and I think that's going to be one of our next initiatives, is to be able to send the link maybe from CAW so they can go pay directly from there. But even think about hard copy statements. When you and I first started working together, the two main ways in which you would receive notices that you had a balance was a snail mail statement or a phone call to the home phone. And we're still seeing good results on direct mail, but I only check my mail about once a week.
Yeah.
So that's good. TCPA, then there's no violation. If they have opted in, you can send a text message with a past due notice.
Especially first party is a little bit more liberal party. The thing you need to be careful about, so stay tuned, is the frequency of being able to do that.
Okay. I knew there would be a catch.
Yeah.
What about, do you know if that's true for our friends in Canada as well?
I don't know that.
Okay. I will check with Kyle Tobin, see what he says.
Yeah, Kyle's been bugging me to open up Canadian profit recovery instead of American profit recovery.
I know. We can all three start a collection agency in Canada.
North American profit recovery.
There you go. That would be beautiful. So if you're a Real Green customer and you're thinking about collections for 2021, within Service Assistant, we have asked our customers to look at your parameter setup. And most set their aging buckets up at 30, 60, 90, 120, but it's very customizable. It just seems to make the most sense. And then many of them tie collection triggers to that, such as sending statements. That's when they will export call campaigns internally, or now they'll be able to do text. And also, we have one integrated third-party collection agency, that is American Profit Recovery. What our customers love about it, Matt, is that they can seamlessly transmit accounts to American Profit. We receive updates when payments are made or when they come off of collections. And if we need to quickly notify you and pull it out of collections, it happens within Service Assistant. So it is super slick, super easy, super reliable. Our customers love your service. But I often am asked, when should we send those accounts to American Profit Recovery? I've looked at my 2020 results. To your point, I think many of our customers fared well from an AR perspective with at least the same bad debt ratio or maybe a little bit better because of the demand. But when do you suggest that American Profit step in and take over for their collection efforts?
Well, that's a tricky question because it does sometimes depend on the business itself, more case by case. But what we always recommend, and this is 100% true of any business, is look at your aging sheet. So you're going to look at how many customers are we billing? And then of those, so I'm going to do a visual here, right? We got this many customers, 1,000, 2,000, 500, and only a handful end up getting to be 30 days past due. Of those, we send out statements, right? Text, whatever we do, right? So a smaller amount ends up being 60, little smaller amount hits 90, but there comes a point where that line planes off. So the same people that end up being 90 are typically the same people hitting 120, 150, 180, 210. And enough, what happens to the internal cost at the same time is that goes like this. So businesses start spending more and more time and energy on the more delinquent accounts. So the internal cost starts to grow and add up over time where, so kind of, again, my little picture is where that starts to plane off and costs start going like this is the best time to outsource that to us or, to another. Typically that's after 2, maybe 3 applications is pretty typical of what we see. Some businesses a little more progressive use it a little sooner, because their aging planes off a little bit sooner. Could be demographics there, could be they just don't have a lot of time and energy or staff to be able to do stuff internally on their own. And then every once in a while you get that planing off a little later, let's call it that 120 mark. But usually 60 to 120 days is ideal.
That makes sense. And from a service assistant perspective, I think the most common financial hold criteria is they go on hold, which means they would not get another service, and service assistant will limit that, although you can always override it. 60 days and $25. So if you owe me more than $25 for longer than 60 days, we stop making treatments. And that's usually a 2 to 3 treatment window. So that makes sense. And I don't think I've seen a lot of data that would suggest any need to really change that. Talk about what happens with tier 1 and tier 2 at American Profit.
Yeah, let me share one thing before I get to that. So I'll share something that I heard from this genius. You may know him. His name's Joe Cusick or something like that.
Yeah. I've heard that name before. Yeah.
So I you guys used to do those seminars where you traveled around and how outdated Yellow Pages was, and one of the slides he used to have in that presentation was receivables and how important it was. And he said, the thing is that when someone owes me money, does that hurt? Yeah, but is it going to kill me? No, it's $100. He said, what hurts more is how much did I spend to get that customer in the first place? So, that hurts a little bit more. He said, but what hurts the most is the fact that they're on hold and the future revenue that customer would bring when we could be right next door doing an application. And it just kills me that because they're on hold, I'm not going right next door and getting that revenue as well. So his point to that was the importance of using collections sooner to get them that money hold so you can get back on the lawn.
So I used to thin slice cancel data. Thin slice is the word. Malcolm Gladwell talks about thin slicing data to get to answers and root cause analysis. Joe talked about it from an optimization standpoint, efficiency, best routing. You don't want to go to Matt's street 3 times because 2 of the neighbors hadn't paid their bills. But you will also find in this industry, there's a reason why agronomically we space the treatments when they do. And if you're on financial hold because you went out of town, you didn't pay your bill, and now we've gone 60, 75 days during key treatment periods agronomically, you're going to have weeds, Matt. Your lawn is not going to look good. And even though I'm going to tell you that, you're not going to be happy that the results aren't good. So it is so part and parcel to the results we get.
Yeah. So back to your question, tier 1 versus tier 2. So tier 1 is designed, number 1, to be used earlier in the process. So, where most companies would hesitate to use a third party because it was just too expensive. They just didn't want to give up 50%, right? Which most agencies out there charge. So they'd rather keep working it themselves, trying to get 100% of that money. And then secondly is they really hesitated to send someone to collections because they didn't want to alienate the customer. They, again, ideally want to work it out themselves, not only get paid, but keep those customers coming back, as we just talked about. But the tier 1 is, again, there comes that point where that plane's off. Tier 1's designed to be able to step in earlier, do it in a very diplomatic manner so as to not alienate the customer, but act more as an intermediary between, ABC Lawn Care and the customer. So what it does is it speeds up cash flow. B, reduces some of the internal costs, right? And then lastly, because of the way we approach it, is it helps to retain customers as opposed to losing them down the street, maybe to another lawn care company.
And I've watched that for 15 years. You guys are the nicest collection people in the world. I don't know where you recruit your people from that actually make those tier 2, because you retain the customer. That's what's miraculous. You do collect the money and you retain the customer. That's best in class collections, my friend.
Yes. And then tier 2 is the after, so someone's ignored the lawn care company. It's gone to tier 1. We've tried to amicably work out either payment or arrangements. If that still doesn't work, then we're obviously facing a very difficult consumer and customer. So tier 2 is designed for, those really difficult and challenging type of accounts. However, I will notate that tier 2 also, it's very, very customer friendly. So long gone are the days of yelling and screaming at folks and all those horror stories you hear from 2020 and 60 Minutes. It just doesn't happen, at least not at my company.
We're going to come repossess your lawn.
Yeah, but tier 2 is more contingency based at that point. So no additional costs. They do pay. And then we work on a contingency, where the tier 1 is a low cost per account. And for Real Green customers, they get a very nice discount. So it's no more than $17 for each account submitted.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Well, it's less than most companies spend to do it on their own, just
right.
in their time, let alone statements and envelopes and postage and so on.
We did 158 acquisitions when I was at Scott's Miracle-Gro, and part of the due diligence was to examine the accounts receivable routines. And you will hear this from green industry owners. Oh, we are very diligent. We do this at 15 days, this at 30 days. The calls kick off. But then when you look at the details, yeah, that happens unless we get busy, unless somebody goes on maternity leave. Most of our customers, you cannot convince me that there's not a better ROI to partner with APR sooner rather than later, because you're paying someone to do it. There's an opportunity cost of what they're doing, and you've made it so affordable and seamlessly integrated with Real Green that that's just not something you want to spend a lot of time on.
Yeah. It's people don't often look at what it costs us internally to pursue collections. It's all absorbed into, a wage. The A, opportunity cost, and B, the wage, the actual time that's being spent on it. If you don't mind, I'm going to share this with you. So we track as a collection company, we're required to track any complaints, right? Whether that's state, federal, Better Business Bureau, any of those. Knock on wood, we don't get very many of those, but we also track internal complaints, which would be they're complaining about our client in most cases, about the work that's done. We track all this. But another thing we track is compliments. So I literally just got this email. So for the year, February 18th, so call it six weeks now, we've gotten 463 compliments.
No way.
72 just this week. And I'll give you a little sample. Thank you, Jeff, so much for understanding the struggles I've been dealing with. Thank you, Angela. You have no idea how much I appreciate you working with me. Thank you so much. This puts my mind at ease. Don't ever change. You have such a good demeanor. And normally I hang up on people, but you have such a nice voice. Don't ever change. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to work this out with me, letting me get back on. Appreciate it. I'm so excited for this to be off my credit. I appreciate you. Just tell everybody there, thank you. You've been so nice. And then she started crying. So that's just a little sample this week of the compliments.
That's amazing. In the green industry, we can't get enough employees to be outside doing work that I think is fantastic. That's why it just amazes me that you can still recruit that caliber individual to work in a collection agency, which to me sounds like not a fun job, although I found it very challenging when I was leading those teams. But it's incredible that you're managing to do that.
Well, the reason I bring this up is I think it's important, when a business looks for collections, again, the hesitation is I don't want to alienate my customers in small rural USA, right? I see these people at the grocery store. I see these people at church. So they're really hesitant to use a third party, even though these people aren't paying for a service that they performed, a great service that they performed. They're hesitant to do that. So I think if you're going to use an agency, it's important to have one that treats your customers with true dignity and respect. And again, acts more as an intermediary as opposed to a last resort, rough them up type of approach.
Here's the other key to success in collections, and you know this well. When it gets handed off to APR, tier 1 and then tier 2, you want to be sure that it's a substantiated balance, right? That the lawn care company is doing a terrific job with also keeping internal notes. If the customer says you were never here that day, I can prove you weren't here that day, and then it gets handed off to you guys, what's the level of success you're going to have with someone who's already disputed it before it gets to APR?
Yeah, so those are tougher, right? So that's where document, to be able to provide the invoice, with what was performed that particular day. We obviously rely somewhat on our clients at that point, which is another huge feature of SA5, by the way, that we can get that much, much easier. But there's only obviously so much proof you can have. I think now with the the GPS and showing that the truck was there and for how long it was there, those are huge
Or
these
how about
days.
the Ring doorbells? Paul Wagner at FitTurf sent me a video of one of his technicians, and you never know where this is going to go, but the homeowner sent it to Paul and said, your technicians are phenomenal, because when the guy got out of the truck, instead of treating the lawn, the first thing he did was bring the empty trash cans up to the house for the homeowner. It's like,
wow.
Before I get going with my day, I'm going to take care of you. That's a terrific story. But I have also heard where you don't want to make a bad hire a guy that's a paper hanger, puts the invoice on the door without treating the lawn, because just assume everybody's watching.
Yeah. So that's so cool. The garbage cans. Raving fans, deliver +1.
What do you mean by that?
So if you haven't read the book Raving Fans, everyone, I highly recommend it. But people, create raving fans, you not only deliver what you promised, but try to take it one step further and go one step beyond. You'll have satisfied companies by delivering, but to get truly raving fans, things like that are a perfect example of a +1.
Yeah.
So, how many people tell on their street or just their friend group that my lawn care company not only treats my yard, but they brought my garbage cans up. Like, how cool is that?
Any doubt that he's not going to do a terrific job on your lawn? He just spent an extra 5 minutes ensuring you didn't have to do that after work.
Yeah.
I love that story. I love it. So within American Profit Recovery, if I need to, you all you provide buckets, numbers of transactions. How exactly does the pricing model? I know it's volume based, but if I've never used you before, what can I expect in the sales process?
Yeah, so we look at, again, we going back to your actual numbers. How many accounts per season, how many accounts per month, whatever is easiest to calculate on their end. So there's really 2 numbers we look at. How many do they have right now that they need help with? And then how many going forward? So for future use, the key to get the best return is to use it consistently, not let them pile up till the point where you're like, just, all right, send them all. It's using it consistently when it gets to that critical aging point. So the way our pricing works is we allow clients to lock into pricing for a maximum of 2 years. So we all know what costs do over time. So we don't want them locking in any longer than that, just in case postage and, everything else goes up. So we want to reserve the right at least to raise our prices. So we look at how many now, how many over the next 2 years, and that will determine what the best price is for them. That doesn't mean they have to use or look at 2 years worth. They could look at a year with what they have now and what they have for a year. But all of our tier 1 programs, they're able to use those accounts over 2 years. And then it's volume based. So traditional pricing is no more than $22 per account. Real Green customers get a really good discount off of that price. So you're looking at about, I think it's no more than $17 per account. It's a 25% discount.
And Matt, when our customers talk about cost per sale, it's well over $100 now. If you're thinking about what it takes to retain that customer, this is a rounding error.
Yeah. And then obviously the more volume, the less per account. We can drive some of our hard costs down, with the volume. So
that's awesome. The first time I was ever promoted, I don't think I've ever told you this story. I was at ChemLawn and we talked about sales and marketing, especially this time of year, marketing strategies. Of course, it makes sense. We have all the integrated fun marketing tools at Real Green. Dave Bolter and his team spend all their time talking about marketing campaigns. But when I was at Kimlon, I said to our regional manager, we're not spending very much time talking about collecting that money. It was just assumed that a certain amount we're going to write off, and we've always just sent statements at these dates, and if we have time, we make collection calls. But I really built a business model around if we could just save 5% more customers, reduce our bad debts, which are cancels due to financial reason, by 5%, this is the net customer account effect. And I became fascinated with how to tweak accounts receivable strategies. And of course, as you know, it certainly evolved over time, but it's sometimes overlooked by lawn care companies when you get caught up in what you're spending to acquire customers, and even to an extent, customer retention, client success. But how you handle their bill is part and parcel to retention.
Yeah, 100%.
That's how you've made a living your whole life, right? You knew this.
Well, you don't often think about, it's amazing to me to I don't even want to tell you how many businesses I've met with over the years. You can see all these grays here,
Yes.
but it's amazing to me how out of touch a lot of companies are with their receivables and their collection process. And I'll go through an analysis with them, and one of the things we do is analyze what they do internally. And they're like, we call, do you find it's easy or difficult to get a hold of people? Difficult. Do you leave a message? Of course. Do most people call you back? No. Okay. So what, make another call? Is it easier or more difficult to get a hold of people? More difficult, right? We send this statement and we send this statement. Is it different from that one? No. Okay. And then we send that same statement again, and then we send that statement, you sit there and just kind of make them think, what's my incentive as your customer to pay now?
None.
Why do you keep doing this? And this is what I hear most times. I don't know. It's just what we've always done.
We've all done it this way. The most dangerous words.
That just, so I agree with you. Just, they don't really take time to look at the whole collection process. The other thing I found, in fairness, to not getting as much attention is, most companies write off maybe 1-2%, worst case scenario 10%, but usually in 1 to 5%. Well, that means there's 95 to 99% of their business that's over here, and this is just a 1 to 5% of my business. So I get it, where it's not necessarily the highest priority, but to your point, is it really can make a huge impact.
And if you're doing collections correctly, it really is step one in quality assurance, because you are identifying, do we have a technician that's poorly trained? Do we have a product that's not working well? It is a wealth of information from a retention perspective, and it should always be viewed as step one in quality assurance. You're just going to assume the best, that they didn't pay us because of a really good reason. And then you get into, then it becomes a collection issue, but you should rule that out initially.
Well, and I'm passionate about it, right? I feel like, and again, I'm going to go back to all the businesses I've met with over the years, just great people, entrepreneurial people, so proud of what they do. And you start talking about their business and how they got into it and where they are today, and just smiling from ear to ear, and then say, all right, let's talk about receivables. Yeah, it's a sore subject, but I'm going to share this story with you, because this is, to me, this is what it's about, is these lawn care companies provide a valuable, very, very valuable service, right? So when people don't pay their bills, to me, it's like stealing. So I'm gonna share. I don't know if I've told you this story, but it was a very sweet elderly lady named Dorothy. I won't share her last name, but she owned a floral shop for many, many, many years and had a stack of people, right? Still had the cards, right? The ledger cards. And I go through everything and I'm like, Dorothy, you know, we could definitely help you. And here's what you're looking at. And she looks at me and she goes, you know what, Matt, I can't bring myself to send people to collections. I appreciate what you're saying. And I was like, Dorothy, but keep in mind, it's very diplomatic. You know, we're acting as in it. She goes, I understand that, Matt, but I just can't send someone to collections. I said, okay. So I packed up my stuff and I started heading to the door. And to this day, I can't explain to you why I did this, but I grabbed this really nice plant off of one of her shelves and I started walking out. And she said, excuse me. And I turned around. I'm like, yeah. She goes, what are you doing? I said, oh, I'm leaving. You know, you didn't want to send your folks to collections. And she said, no, with the plant. What are you doing with the plant? I go, oh, I'm taking it. And she said, without paying? I said, yeah, Dorothy, that's what everyone in that stack did to you. Only you delivered it. I'm just going to take it with me. So I'm going to save you this to me.
I love that. You've never told me that story.
She said, sit down. And she was a longtime client of mine, just the sweetest lady. That's how I feel about it. You know, these people are stealing money from these legitimate, great businesses. You can't walk out of Target with a shopping cart full of stuff and not get arrested.
That's brilliant, Matt. That is absolutely brilliant. I love that.
Yeah, that's my Dorothy story.
The next time I'm talking to someone about collections, I'm going to go out to the warehouse and pick up the most expensive product they have and just start carrying it out.
Right.
And say, you don't mind being stolen from, so I'm taking this with me.
Right. That's what they do.
That's brilliant. So how do Real Green customers get in touch with APR and make this very important decision for 2021?
So obviously you can go to our website. That's www.americanprofit.net. But easiest is probably just to give us a call. Myself or I have a senior sales rep that's amazing.
Mr. Andy, we love Andy.
Mr. Andy Avello, and he is incredible. He's one of, I'm just put a little plug in for Andy. He remembers stuff that is just incredible. So Beth, last time we talked, your daughter was doing this and this and this, and and this was a 6 months ago conversation, and clients love him. But our toll-free number is 800-11-0023.
Can you say that one more time? Because I'm recording it so that I can post it multiple times, and I think it may have locked up. What was the phone number again?
It's 800-711-0023.
And I will drop that in the comments today. Thank you for joining us on the beach. You need some more sunscreen, and we will do this again. We will check in again soon, see what's new with all the things. We're going to get going on texting. Thank you for that information. And if you have any emerging trends, you know where to find me. We'll talk about it.
Yes, ma'am. And I appreciate you. I appreciate, and I mean this very sincerely. I've said this to you before, but just your passion and your caring for the industry and for your clients.
It'll make me cry.
Is something that I've always admired of you, and you're truly an asset to the lawn care industry.
You are the best. I'm going to give you my boss's email so you can call and tell me.
No problem.
Thank you, Matt. You're so nice. We love working with American Profit Recovery because it works. because our customers get their money. It makes them sustainable. It just is a wonderful thing. So thank you for being our partner, and we will catch up again soon.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, sir. We'll see you.
Yeah, bye.